Hey, what you're about to watch is a debate between me and somebody who's pro-life from the moment of conception. About halfway through, we changed topics and actually debate veganism. That part went very well for me, I think. She lands on quite a crazy reductio, but I won't spoil it. I'll let you watch it to see what it is. I've just got a couple notes about the abortion section, which I'll say now. I do think it went quite well overall, but after debating, there are a couple things I wish I said. Most notably, there's one point where, I'm talking about base values, and she says, "Oh, so that's just like your opinion." And I basically just said yes in the debate, and I still hold that, yes. But I realize now we could have gone off into a topic about moral realism at that point. I could have said yes. Is your view not your opinion? It's pretty great, but overall it went very well, and hope you enjoy listening. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all right. Just it's morning where I am, so just waking up. Would you
Oh,
mind
that's nice.
just?
Oh yeah. I mean, go ahead. I was just gonna say I was wrapping up lab work. So.
Oh yeah, no worries. So yeah, I'm just looking at the message you sent, and okay, so human beings have an inherent right to life and the right to be free of violence. It's wrong to violate those rights. So do you take that from like the moment of conception, or where do you take it from?
Yeah. So if we want to talk about when life begins, it's definitely going to be conception. If
hmm
we want to talk about potential for life to move forward, that's going to be implantation.
So I'm just going to say I don't disagree that it's alive from the moment of conception. Um,
Okay.
can you explain what exactly you mean by the potential for it to move forward, I think was your phrasing?
Yeah, so move forward just means being in an environment where it has the ability to move forward. So, if we were to put you in a rocket ship and send you to the surface of the sun, you would have no ability to move forward, right? You would die.
hmm
I'm trying to remember that I I don't have to use TikTok language on here. Um, so, in order for that fetus at that point, it would be like a blastomere, very, very beginning of a fetus. Uh, when it implants, that mark of implantation is when like the potential to continue actually happens.
Right. So which of those moments do you attribute, like at which of those points would you say that this, I guess, zygote has a right to life?
Oh, when does a right to life begin?
Yeah.
So the right to life, I would say, begins at implantation. So I would say Plan B is morally permissible, even though honestly, so this is where I get into the science of it. Like as a researcher, the research is not stone cold that Plan B prevents implantation. It is
Yeah, I
pretty,
don't believe it does. What I believe it
yeah,
does is just prevent
prevents
ovulation,
ovulation.
and if you've already
Yeah.
ovulated, it's very unlikely to work.
Yes, exactly. So, like I don't believe that Plan B is an abortifacient. I haven't seen research for that.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say, just as like a logically consistent position, human rights would begin at the moment that a human organism comes into existence,
hmm
and technically, scientifically, that's going to be conception.
Okay. Yeah. So I agree with most of what you've said. I believe that it's alive. I believe that it's a human. But most of the abortion debates I listen to debate, oh, is this fetus a person? And that's pretty meaningless to me because I don't personally value that. So I can lay out my position and we can hash it out. Um, the end result might just be that you and I have like starkly different values and it's irreconcilable. But we
Yeah,
can
for
see where
sure.
this leads. So I don't I don't really attribute any significance to, the fact that the life is human, or, that it's alive, right? I think there are, plenty of instances in which killing is fine, and I believe killing, fetuses that are sufficiently early in gestation is fine. And the reason for that is sentience. So I don't attribute any significance, any moral significance to killing a living being that is not sentient and has never been sentient. For example, a plant, a sunflower, a weed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What are your thoughts on my position?
Yeah, so I've heard sentience argued a lot. So just I want to make sure that I understand you completely. So here's the hypothetical. I think I know your answer, but I want to be crystal clear. So if a woman gives birth to a baby that is born in a coma, would you give that newborn baby, that neonate, rights?
So is completely non-sentient?
Well, so that's where I want to dive into what sentience means to you, because technically, perception, which is stimulus that's received by receptors in the body, and then the perception of that stimulus is processed in the brain. That happens, like that formation, that connection between receptors in the fetus's body, and that connection made to the central nervous system happens at around like 20, 22 weeks gestation. So that fetus at that point can experience its environment. It can react to the taste of things that the mother eats via the umbilical cord, because it has taste buds. Um, and like if you were to put something in the uterus, fetuses have been seen and studied to remove themselves from the area that it was a metal tool, where that metal tool existed in the uterus. So we know that it can perceive space around it, it can perceive objects, and it can react with its environment. It
So,
can
so,
react
so let me just
to stimulus.
reiterate my position that I don't believe late-term abortions are okay, because I believe the
Okay.
fetus is sentient. So I said that previously, but that might need clearing up.
Okay. So
So I actually believe
okay. So
sentience is established. I think you said 20 weeks. I actually believe it's earlier than that. I can't really debate the empirics. So if you're not going to accept that it's earlier, I'm happy to give whatever week you proposed, because it's not really that significant if we're splitting hairs over time.
yeah, so like the nerves, like nerve endings, nerve bundles, those exist prior to 20 weeks. Those are going to be developing around like 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks. And then the connection, which is where people start to argue sentience, the ability to perceive that stimulus, is going to happen around 20 weeks.
Yeah, so I'll just say I think it's earlier than that, but I'm just happy to say it's 20 weeks for the sake of the debate. So, for the
Okay. I
sake of
mean,
this
if
debate,
you want to say it's earlier, yeah, I was going to say we're splitting hairs at that point.
yeah, so for the sake of the debate, sentience begins at 20 weeks, and therefore, if sentience begins at 20 weeks, I think abortions are fine up until 20 weeks.
Okay, so as long as the fetus can't perceive pain, it can't perceive stimulus in its environment, that's when you would say it's morally permissible to kill something,
Yeah,
or to kill like a human being.
yeah.
Okay, okay. So my position is that even if something doesn't have the capacity to perceive pain, or to have experiences that we would deem worthy of memory, that human being still has still has the right to life. So, for example, some babies are born with a condition called congenital insensitivity to pain. And that is simply where if you were to place a hot iron onto their arm, there would be no recoil stimulus, and there would be no negative association. There would be no negative association with that stimulus. So whether something can perceive pain really has no bearing on the humanity of that human being and its right to life.
Yeah, I'd
Does
agree
that make
that
sense?
merely perceiving pain doesn't matter, but I think that
Abortion
you
is
have,
genocide of the disabled.
but I think that you have to have some kind of preference. You know, it's not necessarily the physical sensation of pain, but you know, any kind of preference, any kind of I like this, I have a tendency towards this, as opposed to, you know, just complete nothingness.
Yeah, I was also
Okay.
gonna point out that. Oh, you can talk.
No, go ahead, Monkey. Or sorry, I don't
Yeah.
know your name. I just see your profile.
Yeah, like the people with the congenital insensitivity to pain, they still like have like emotional, like negative reactions. Yeah.
Yeah, they would certainly still have emotions.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
it's
what was the
not
point
my
there?
position that lack of
Okay, yeah,
feeling
go ahead.
pain renders it okay to kill you.
Okay, well, so I mean that's perception, right? Because at the end of the day, suffering is subjective.
Well, it's one kind of perception, but it's not the only kind of perception.
Okay, so then what type of perception would you say matters in determining whether or not someone should have rights?
Preferences. Whether you have preferences.
Oh, preferences.
Yes.
Okay. So what type of preference? I mean, like, are we talking like preference for a warm environment, a cold environment?
Yeah, there could be that. It could be a a preference against pain, which would require the capacity to feel pain. Um, but not necessarily. Yep, cold environment, warm environment. Preference to drink milk. Preference to see a smiling face. Anything like that.
Okay. Well, so we know like most traits like that, preferences, personality traits, those are going to be genetically determined. So those are going to exist at conception. I don't want to extrapolate what you're saying and help your argument, but I also don't want to be bad faith here. Um, so, um,
Well, can I just get clarification? Are you saying that
yeah.
like a one-celled zygote has preferences?
So yeah, so a zygote, just like bacteria, this is true of single-celled bacteria. Single-celled bacteria, depending on the species, are going to have a preference for a certain pH environment. They're going to have a preference for a certain amount of sunlight, and they express that preference through a process of chemotaxis or phototaxis, which is movement to or away from certain stimuli. A
Right.
zygote's going to do the same thing.
So that's not what I'm referring to when I use the word preference, right? It sounds like you're talking about, something that maybe we can say like benefits the organism, right? Whereas I'm talking about like wanting something, right? Which I don't believe a one-celled organism is anywhere near capable.
Right, but we have to talk about in the capacity of the organism to express preferences.
So what do you mean
A
by that?
newborn baby. Oh, so yeah, I'll give you an example. So, like for example, a newborn baby's capacity to express preferences is different than a 7-year-old's capacity to express
But I didn't
preferences.
say express preferences. I just said to have them.
Okay, so how would we know that something has preferences?
Well, if we take a just use pain because it's an easy example. We take
Mhm.
a fetus that can feel pain, which is tends to be around
So
what?
reacting to stimuli is your basis.
Sorry,
The
would you
stimuli.
mind just not speaking over me because I'm trying to have a talk to someone. Well, so it sounds like we would disagree when the fetus could feel pain. I believe that's around 12 weeks. But maybe we can just say it's 20 for the sake of this. So I think if something can feel pain, I think they have preferences. They have a preference against pain.
Okay, so but that's what I'm saying is like we have to be able to know that something has preferences, so it has to
Well, we
be
would certainly
measurable.
know that a one-celled zygote does not, right?
Well,
Do
we
you
would know
disagree?
that it does. Yeah, we would know that it does based on behavior, like the example I just gave you. We have different, obviously, language. So when we're talking about um, very simple multicellular organisms, their movement to or from stimuli, that is an expression of preference, right?
That's not, once again, that's not the kind of preference I'm talking about, right? Like a plant will lean towards the sun, right? But I
Hmm.
don't believe a plant is remotely capable of sentience because it doesn't have a brain, it doesn't have a central nervous system.
Okay, so in order for something to have the type of preference you're looking for, it has to have a central nervous system.
Well, it's not necessarily that, right? But they have to have some sort of capacity for like a no, sorry, not a capacity for, but yeah. Look, I'm basically happy to say yes, right? Because I don't think it's going to be too central. Yeah, I think there's finer points that can be weeded out there. That's sort of empirics that I can't debate right now.
Okay, no, I'm happy to hear them out. I want to understand you precisely.
To hear what out exactly?
You said that there are certain situations, or I don't remember exactly your verbiage there, but
Um,
so
Look, probably the simplest way to say it is I'm talking about qualia. I'm talking about wanting something or wanting not something, right? That's clearly very different to a plant leaning towards the sun. Would you agree?
so I would say no. I would say the reason that it's not wrong to cut down a plant, but it is wrong to have an elective abortion, is because one organism is a living human being, and the other is a living non-human being. And we give special rights to human beings over other organisms simply by nature of their humanness, um, their belongingness to the species Homo sapien.
Well, that's not why I give rights to living beings. I give rights to living beings if they have sentience, and particularly preferences. Um, so
Okay.
are
Okay.
you just sorry? Like the phrasing of this is going to sound rude, but I'm not trying to sound rude. But I just mean, are you not understanding the difference between what you would call a plant's preference to face the sun versus my preference to eat chocolate, for instance?
I would say that whatever difference exists there is not morally relevant.
Okay, so
So,
whether it's morally relevant or not is just going to depend on our values, right? But do you agree there is a difference there?
I haven't been convinced that there is. No.
Okay, so do you understand what I mean when I say I want this chocolate? I have it feels like
Yes.
it feels like something to want this chocolate, right?
Yes.
But for the plant, it doesn't feel like anything to want to face the sun, for lack of a better phrase, because it doesn't want that.
Okay, yeah, but it's not in the plant's capacity to want something the way that you and I would
Yeah,
want
I would
something.
agree it's not in the plant's capacity to want, but it sounds like, have we established that there is a difference there? I want something, the plant doesn't want anything?
Yes and no. I think where I'm stuck with your argument is that you said that you give moral relevance to beings that are sentient. So, do you give the same rights to non-human sentient organisms that you do human sentient organisms?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. So that clarifies your position a bit then for me. Um, so let's see
Well,
here.
yeah,
So
maybe
like you're vegan.
I should just elaborate on that slightly, right? You know, like
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
believe we should give like ants the right to vote, for instance. But yeah, I don't think we should, chop the heads off cows.
Okay, so you would say that the same natural rights that we ascribe to human beings are the same natural rights we should ascribe to all sentient non-human beings.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by natural rights. Could you just clarify that?
Sure. So like natural rights are like the laws of society. So they're
Hmm.
the rights that are based on like logic and like first principles. So these are the right to your life, right? You the life to be free of someone taking your rights. They're negative rights. The right to not have your property infringed upon. Now these rights are not limitless,
Yeah,
and
okay.
the
I know what you
limitations.
mean by
You
negative
know what I mean?
rights, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Sorry,
the
I'll
answer is
restate my
just
question.
the answer is yes. I do extend those to non-human animals.
Okay, all right. So you're vegan.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Cool. All right, I've got you now. Um, let me remember what I was going to say. Um,
It's quite funny, right? I like if the reductio is meant to be, oh, if you believe that, you should be vegan, and then I
no,
am vegan. Yeah, it's
no, I'm not. I mean, no hate to anybody that's in here. I'm not like a Phil bro. That's like not my vibe. Um,
no, I'm
uh,
not trying to say anything bad about you. I just found it entertaining.
yeah. I mean, you have to admit most people that hold your position would answer, well, like, no, I don't. I'm not vegan, and here's why, and blah blah blah. Um, sorry, I
Yeah,
don't know if you can still hear.
possibly. I don't know if they attribute. I think most abortion debates center around like vague issues like, oh, are they a person? As opposed to, are they sentient? Do they have preferences?
Yeah, I think a lot of that personhood comes from the fact that most people debating this are in America. And if the personhood argument can be successfully made, then the constitutional rights that we ascribe to born people would have to be ascribed to unborn people. So I think that that's where a lot
Hmm.
of that stems from.
Yeah, okay, that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, I guess what is the relevance of sentience to you?
Hmm. It's sort of a hard question to narrow down because at this point we're kind of just getting to like base values. Um, I think you can have. Yeah, I think it's just sort of where I place my base values. I don't know if I can get any further than that, right?
Okay, so you wouldn't say it's like grounded on anything. It's just kind of like your opinion.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not like a moral realist. I think that morality is essentially just preferences. So yes.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where to go from there. I mean, I think it is just kind of in a agree to disagree. I think that if sentience is where we draw the line for things, that for people who are in comas or people who are not currently sentient, that leaves them at risk. And
So it
also,
doesn't
sentience
for
is
my
a
position,
sliding
right?
scale.
So for instance, like if you fell into a coma today, I wouldn't think it's okay to, and let's say, we knew, let's make it as close as possible. So let's say we knew you were going to wake up in 9 months, right?
Hmm.
I wouldn't unplug you, and the reason for that is because at a point in the past, you've previously been sentient, right? So, my protection extends to uh, non-sentient beings who have been sentient in the past.
Okay. So why does that past sentience, like, why is that relevant?
It just matters to me. It's accurately captures my preferences of when I think it's right or wrong to kill somebody.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, your opinion and your preferences doesn't leave me much to go on. You know what I mean? If it's not
Well, you can
grounded in
you
something
can
observable by somebody
see
else.
well you can see does it lead to any kind of crazy reductio, or does it result in a contradiction? But if you can't derive either of those, then it seems like there's little pushing back against it.
Yeah. I'll be honest, like most of these conversations that I have, like I don't jump on people. I take the time to think about it, and if the person is open and willing, then like we have a conversation at a later time. That's just kind of how I do things. It's not how other people do things, but um I mean, if you want to jump on another time, I'd be happy to do so. I'd need to think about your position and some of the ways that I would think it doesn't make sense in other circumstances.
Sure, yeah. So you can't find any way in which it doesn't make sense in other circumstances at the moment, but you're willing to think about it, and maybe we can pick up this conversation at a later date. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would be happy to.
Cool.
I'm just thinking right now that I can't. I mean, for me, my value system, sentience isn't relevant. I don't ascribe the same rights to non-human organisms as I do human
Hmm.
organisms. I'm not vegan, um, and I do think that um, there's only, as far as I've thought about it in the past, um, moral relevance to the humanness of an organism, um, that would make me say uh, it has a right to life, it has a right to be free of violence.
So if we had a human zygote that was never going to develop past the zygotic stage, was going to remain unicellular for its entire existence, and it lives in like a petri dish, you extend full rights to that.
I mean, insofar as it has the capacity, obviously that zygote is never going to have the ability to vote. It's never going to have the ability to find a significant other or bear children. So,
What
insofar
what do you mean by
as the capacity.
capacity? Capacity for what?
Well, so like in the same way that like we don't extend to children the same rights as to adults, we don't allow 7-year-olds to drive cars. Um, like insofar as what rights are applicable
Oh
to
yeah,
that
I'm not talking
zygote.
about like the right to drive. I just mean the right to not be killed.
Yeah. So, um, This is sticky territory for me, because the zygote isn't in its natural environment. Obviously, it was brought into being. If it's in a petri dish, it was brought into being in a way that's not a causal biological process, like to which we could ground an obligation for its existence, and therefore, who is obligated to protect that zygote.
Right.
Yeah.
So I take it from that you're also against like IVF.
So that's the thing. That's where it's sticky territory for me. I'm not specifically against IVF, but I don't think it's right to create embryos that will never be implanted.
Sure. That's pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much unavoidable with IVF, though, right? I mean, maybe in the future when technology has progressed, it will be avoidable.
Sorry, what is avoidable? What is unavoidable?
Creating embryos that will never be implanted, because
Oh no, it's not.
it's not unavoidable.
No, it's certainly not. I have a friend that I babysit her children for her, and her husband went through the process of IVF. She had 8 embryos created, and only 2 of them ended up implanting and gestating successfully. But she did go through the process of implanting all 8.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. I guess it is avoidable. In that instance, if you're going to do that. So I wonder if the first 2 worked, and she only wanted 2 kids, would she still have put the other 6 in?
Yes, she would have. So she's actually she's Catholic, and that's her. I'm not Catholic, but she is. And they were going to do all of them regardless. But it wasn't actually the first 2. It was the first and the second to the last that ended up taking. So.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's yeah. I guess that's nice to hear some consistency. So you'd only be against IVF in instances in which, let's say the woman would get the first embryo and then leave the other, 9 to be thrown into the incinerator.
That's right. Yeah, I think that in those situations, those embryos were created, and the parents that ask the doctors to create them have an obligation to those embryos, and they shouldn't just be left to sit in a freezer for eternity. I don't think that that's morally permissible. And I don't think it's morally permissible to incinerate them, even though there would be no pain felt at that point in the human being's development.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was just sort of poking around to see if I could find any consistencies, but it all seems pretty consistent, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
we just have like starkly different base values. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm not really sure if there's anything further we can get to on the topic of abortion at the moment. Like I've got more time if you want. We can go into, some of the other topics. We could talk about, moral realism. I don't know if you're a realist or not, or we could talk about the animal thing. Otherwise, we can leave it and pick up another day. What would you prefer?
I mean, yeah. Tell me why you're vegan. I'm curious. Unless has any input about the abortion thing.
Yeah, well, did you want to say anything, J.A.?
I'm observing. Go on.
Sure. Yeah, well, why am I vegan? I think that any attempt to essentially justify eating animals will lead to what I would consider an absolutely absurd conclusion or just a contradiction. So I can try and run you through that if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I'll just start with the question, what is true of an animal that, if true of a human, would justify killing the human for a sandwich?
What is the difference between an animal and a human? Oh, I think I know what you're asking. The animal is not human.
Okay, right. So it's the species essentially.
Yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, it'd be helpful if we could disambiguate that a little bit. Are you talking about like the genetic code, or yeah, that it's comes from a certain lineage?
So I would say that the species Homo sapien has rights as opposed to an animal not having rights, because the capacity for moral reason and the inherent nature of humanness
Um,
denotes special rights.
so I just want to pick up on something there, right? So sounds like
Yeah.
when I asked, the first thing you gave me was like species, that we're Homo sapiens. And then when I tried to ask exactly what you mean by human, or just not exactly, just if you can disambiguate that a little bit, it now you bring up moral reasoning. So
Sure,
which
but
sounds
that's
like
an
more of an
inherent
answer to the
characteristic.
which it sounds like more of an answer to the first question, not the second, right? So um, do you want to go
But
down?
it's an inherent characteristic that only human beings can have. So I would say it's both.
So is it just moral reasoning, or is it humanity?
I would say it's both. So
Okay, both. Yeah, we can do
inherent
both.
to our humanness is the capacity for moral reason.
Okay, so if we had a human that was sufficiently mentally disabled such that they can't perform any kind of moral reasoning, would you consider it fine to kill them?
Hmm. I would say no, because abnormalities in nature don't justify the principle. Um, does that make sense, or should I extrapolate?
It sounds like you might be saying like because humans, like on average, can morally reason, then it's wrong.
Yeah, I would say that we can't derive a principle from an exception to the rule.
Okay, sure. So let's just say that 51% of humanity was unable to morally reason. Would you think that it's just, I mean, in that instance, would you just think it's fine to kill everybody, or no?
If we're talking about like a multiverse, um,
Well,
I
we're
don't
not
know how
talking
to
about a
conversation about
multiverse.
that.
We're not talking about a multiverse. We're just talking about, in this world, 51% of humans are incapable of moral reasoning.
Um, I would say yes, but I also think it's a disingenuous hypothetical.
So you'd say yes in that you would think it's fine to just kill everybody.
I would say without the inherent characteristics of humanness, that there is no basis for natural rights.
Sorry. So can I just get clarity on that? If
Yeah.
if 51% of humanity was incapable of moral reasoning, um, would you think it's fine to just kill everybody for food? It would be really helpful if you could just start with a clear yes or no, and then if you want to elaborate, you can.
Okay. So if the so yes, I would, because inherent then in the characteristics of humanity would not be the inherent characteristics of humanity as we are.
So I would just take that to be like a reductio. I think if the way you justify eating animals can result in thinking it's fine to, just kill all of humanity if 51% are incapable of, moral reasoning, then on my view, I just take that to be completely absurd.
But that is the relevant difference, no?
Well, for you, I don't disagree that it sounds like your position is consistent, but it's not the relevant difference to me. I mean, well, yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, I would like to understand the vegan position better. I guess for me, it's just one of those things that doesn't, like, the moral element of it doesn't. The environmental element does, but I think there's other ways that we could address that. The health benefits of it, like, that does, that makes sense to me. I guess just the moral reasoning of veganism doesn't make much sense to me.
For me, I don't think that there's a morally relevant difference between like a human and a cow, such that it's completely fine to just, kill this cow for, a Philly cheesesteak or something,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just...
But because of that, I don't have to, bite the bullet of, killing all of humanity if, 51% are, morally incapable of moral reasoning. But maybe that's just an impasse in our values.
Yeah, I think that is... I think that you're consistent as well. Obviously, you hold sentience as the number one priority in determining moral relevance. Just because I'm curious, do you believe that animals are moral agents?
Can you just elaborate what you mean by moral agents?
Yeah, so like a moral agent would be shoot, I can't say noun, can I? A moral agent is an organism or a being that has the capacity to, like, act in accordance with moral rules.
Um, I Sorry, what do you mean by moral rules?
Like I guess, like I mean, it's not really like a normative ethics kind of stance. It's more like like don't kill other sentient beings. That would be like an example of a moral rule.
Well, I believe that like animals can kill other sentient beings. So,
But do you believe that it's wrong for them to do so?
yes, yes. I don't think that lions should. Well, it depends what you mean by wrong, but it goes against my preferences that lions kill gazelle, for instance.
Okay. But do you believe that the lion killing the gazelle has the capacity to act in accordance with your moral rules?
So I'm just so that I know that if I've understood the question correctly, do I believe that the lion could, if it knew what I would want it to do and not want it to do, could the lion choose not to kill the gazelle?
Yes.
Um,
Easy.
well, I mean, if it was capable of knowing that, I think it could choose not to, but I don't think it would want to. I think it would just want to kill the gazelle because it doesn't care what I think.
Uh,
Hmm.
So what
Okay,
is
so
the
you would
debate?
say that, oh, hold on, man, I'll give you the floor. So like you would say that it has the capacity to exercise restraint, to exercise or to like act in a capacity uh, that is in accordance with your moral doctrine.
Sorry, can you just
Exercise
repeat that
also
one more
include.
time? It just cut out a little for me.
Yeah, so like you would say that it has the capacity to act in accordance with your moral rules, but its preferences would be different.
Yeah, I may not be fully understanding what you mean by capacity. Like, I think it's possible for it to not kill the gazelle, but I don't think it would not kill the gazelle.
Okay, so by I'm trying to remember what is the like the moral definition of capacity. It's like the um,
Nice.
uh, shoot. I don't know. I would have to look it up. I don't remember. So um, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I would let me see. I have a computer in front of me. Oh God, peace and quiet. Um, okay, so capacity is the function of an individual to the function of an
Sorry, I think then it may have cut out on my end. All I heard was capacity is the function of an individual.
oh yeah, so capacity is an individual's potential to make morally evaluable decisions. So like we're able to measure the moralness of an individual's actions. So it's the potential to make decisions that we can morally measure.
I mean, it depends how we're morally measuring, right? Like, I think it has the potential to, make decisions that I would consider morally wrong or morally right.
Okay, you do. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so I would disagree. I wouldn't say that lions have the capacity to make and weigh moral decisions. I think that
Maybe
animals are.
can I get clarity? Do you mean like that the lion would have the capacity to make decisions that it considers morally right or morally wrong?
Well, so yes, to be logically consistent, I would say yes, yes, but animals are, well, we would consider them nihilistic, right? That um, they seek what is pleasurable and avoid what is painful. Um, so would you say that that in and of itself is a like a moral purview?
Well, all I really consider morality to be is um, preferences. So I think that lions have preferences and will seek out those preferences.
Okay. So like would you say that like capacity for something is what makes how do I put this? Um like capacity to act morally is what determines what someone ought to do. That might not have
No,
made sense. Please
no.
correct me
I
if it
think
doesn't.
if we had like a, like a, I mean, it might depend exactly what you mean by ought, right? But like, I think this might answer your question. If we had like a an android a completely like non-sentient robot, I think that that robot ought not go around shooting people.
Say that again.
If we had, say, like an android, so a robot that has no internal experience, I think that robot ought not go around shooting people.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so just because, okay, no, yeah, I'm on board with that too. Okay, yeah. All right, so I like that I feel like I understand your position better, and I feel like we have some common ground. And I would love to talk to you again sometime about both the vegan thing and the abortion thing once I think about the your sentience position a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. It was really good to speak to you too. You know, I appreciate that you speak clearly. I do appreciate that you're consistent on your position as well. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think it's good when I can ask somebody questions and the whole argument doesn't fall apart.
Yeah,
I
it
like
doesn't
that a
just
lot.
turn to
So
like a total shit fight. Well, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed listening to the debate, and if you'd like to see more content like this, let me know.